Dave Dixon and his guests with an offbeat overview of Detroit's arts and entertainment scene. Music, movies, poetry, photography, whatever. It's a radio magazine of what's happening in the Motor City. If you have an event to promote, call us at 810-559-1270 to participate. Now, your host, Detroit's Culture Czar, Dave Dixon.
That's me in person, and delighted to be back on WXYT, Detroit's talk radio station. We're here every Saturday night from 8 until midnight with a program of what's going on in the Detroit arts and entertainment scene. That's our beat, and we cover it, and each week we try to line up a whole bunch of people that are doing interesting things in the community, and then we talk to them on the theory that it will be interesting to talk to people that are doing interesting things. And of course, Rock and Roll High School leads right into our next story here. We've got to talk to Shawn DuFresne, who's involved with something over at Dondero High School in Royal Oak. Shawn, are you there?
Yes.
Congratulations on the concept of the Dondero High School Hall of Fame. I understand you'll be inducting people tomorrow.
Yes, that's correct. And at 2 o'clock, right at the school, we're going to be inducting 20 graduates as well as staff members that have made a unique contribution on the local level as well as on the international level.
So the Hall of Fame isn't just limited to graduates of the school, but also includes faculty and others who have done a service to the school.
That's correct.
And is this induction ceremony tomorrow at 2 open to the public?
Yes, it is. Open to the public right on Washington and Royal Oak.
Well, I know a lot of very well-known people have graduated from Dondero. Ollie Freder.
Mm-hmm. Ollie Freder, he is one that is being inducted. Unfortunately, he has a prior commitment. He's not going to be there.
I know that Glenn Fry of the Eagles went to Dondero, graduated in '66.
That's right. He is also, as far as we know, not going to be there, but he knows about it, and he has accepted. He was very positive and honored the fact that he was inducted into it. William Broomfield is going to be the keynote speaker. He's
an inductee as well, right?
Right. He's from the class in 1940.
The author of Ordinary People, Judith Guest, went to Dondero.
Yes. Also.
She'll be inducted. And Tom Hayden, now a California state senator.
Right. And a few other local local educators. Even more was just a school educator for over 40 years in Royal Oak at the high school. And Charles Knox as well. So in honoring, not only looking for names in which everyone knows about, but people who have contributed on the local level as well.
Right. Now, you say this is open to the public, 2 o'clock tomorrow.
That's correct.
And Dondero High School is on Washington in Royal Oak, just south of 12 Mile Road.
Right.
So people that want to get over there, and I'm sure there are a lot of Dondero graduates that may not know about this, want to get over there and join you.
Yeah, exactly. And because for a number of years, various staff members have always envisioned this, and a couple years ago...
This idea has been a long time in incubation.
Right, exactly.
But tomorrow is the first induction of the first 20 honorees.
That's correct.
Well, it sounds great.
Yeah, we're really excited about it.
And you teach, but not at Dondero, right?
Right. I teach over at Troy Athens High School.
But you were a student teacher at Dondero when they first started discussing this thing with you, and you've kind of spearheaded it along.
Right. And I also attended Dondero. So, and I can remember that when I was there, the student council would put out monthly displays of people like Tom Hayden and Glenn Fry, and just have a monthly presentation. And I as a student, I thought that was really neat, the fact that this person who a lot of people knew about, who made this contribution to society, actually grew up in Royal Oak. And I think it's a good example for even today's kids seeing that in the new commons area with all the plaques up and the pictures, and I think it's a good role model for them.
I thought it would be fun to try to talk to some of the honorees. I wasn't able to get a hold of Glenn Fry, but I spoke to one of his associates and gave him the telephone number here at WXYT. It's 810-559-1270, and invited him to call us. So I don't know whether he will or not, but I first met Glenn Fry. In fact, the only time we met was back in the late 60s when he was about to leave Royal Oak to go out to L.A. to form the band that was called the Eagles. So
a great group. I'm a fan.
Indeed.
He actually comes back and visits Dondero every so often. He told me that last time I interviewed him.
Yeah, somebody said they saw him in Pasquale's on Monday, but his people assure me that he's not in the United States today.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, Shawn, thank you so much for being part of our show tonight, and good luck with the inaugural ceremonies tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave.
Pleasure to talk to you. Sounds like a good idea. I don't think that my high school has a Hall of Fame. If they do, I have not been invited. But I can keep my fingers crossed.
We should.
Yeah. Oh, it's right. You went to the same school that I went to.
As did Noel Paul Stuckey.
And yes, well,
We have a lot.
we've got that music playing in the background. I suspect that we've got a break here, and I hope you'll stay with us through the break because we've got somebody mighty interesting to talk to when it's over. It's WXYT, Detroit's talk radio. As I said to Shawn DuFresne a moment ago, that it would be fun to try to find some of the people who are going to be honored by induction tomorrow into the Dondero High School Hall of Fame. And as I said, we tried to reach Glenn Fry, and I don't know if Glenn will call us or not, but we do have Tom Hayden on the line from California. Senator Hayden, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Good, Tom. How about yourself?
Oh, just fine. I'm sorry you can't find Glenn Fry. He's probably making music out here somewhere.
I don't know. I spoke to his personal assistant, and she said that he was not on the continent, as she put it.
Really?
So he may be in Europe, or he may be in Asia making a movie, or making, I don't know what, music?
It'd be a state of mind.
Indeed. Now, a lot of people, when I told them that I had reached your folks and that we were going to talk tonight, were surprised to hear that Tom Hayden is from Royal Oak.
Well, I don't find that surprising.
Well, naturally,
Time
you
moves
don't.
on.
Actually, you don't.
Time moves on.
Well, you graduated in the same year that I graduated from Birmingham High School.
Aha.
I remember...
Did you beat us in tennis?
I can't say. Were you on the squad?
Afraid so.
Well, I don't know the answer to that one, but I do know that in that year, either 55 or 56, we had an exchange assembly program with your school, and they sent folks over to Birmingham High School to perform, and I was the master of ceremonies of the Birmingham Assembly at Royal Oak in that beautiful theater that they've got there.
Yeah.
And when I walked out on stage to address the group, I noticed that the first 3 rows had been left unoccupied except for one man and about 8 beautiful girls. And I realized it was Ron Kramer.
Aha.
And so I said, this must be Ron Kramer. And he said, yes. I said, they treat you good, don't they, Ron? And everybody thought that was funny because he was obviously getting special treatment. Did you know Ron Kramer?
No, I didn't.
But he was a star.
I didn't know the 8 beautiful girls.
Yeah, well, he was a star of the football team, of course.
No doubt.
And, of course, you're now in the California State Senate, representing the 23rd District. Where is that?
That is an area encompassing West Los Angeles and the West San Fernando Valley with about 800,000 citizens.
Were you up for re-election in the...
I was. I was just re-elected this week.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Who was your opponent?
I'm a Democrat. I had a Republican, a Peace and Freedom, and an independent opponent. I got 59% of the vote. The
Pretty
number
decisive.
2 finisher got 33% of the vote.
Way to go.
So, yep, I feel good about it.
No.
And this presumably will be my last term in the Senate. I chair the Environmental Committee, and I do a lot of work on Los Angeles urban issues, public safety issues, school reform issues, clean air, those kinds of issues.
There's a lot of interest here in Michigan over the votes on a couple of the propositions that were on the ballot there. A lot of people are surprised at Proposition 209, the anti-affirmative action bill. What's your take on that, Tom?
The voters approved 209. I voted no on it, but I think that the explanation is quite simple, that affirmative action has been indelibly defined as numerical quotas, and whenever you view it that way, of course, public support falls away. This measure went farther than that to exclude any consideration of race or gender, and by the way, it would allow consideration of religion in hiring and in admissions. But it was so fixed in the public mind, it went down. I think the vote was 54 in favor and 46 against.
I see.
So we're now in a very new situation. Racial feelings are raw, tender, and we'll see what happens.
You're listening to WXYT in Detroit. We're talking with Tom Hayden in California, who can't be in town for his induction along with 19 others into Dondero High School's Hall of Fame tomorrow afternoon. We thought it would be a good idea to get Tom on the phone and congratulate him on the induction, although the election last Tuesday is more to be congratulated for.
I don't know. I feel very good about this induction, although that's kind of a military term. I don't know quite.
And you are not a military guy, are you?
I don't quite know what the ceremony is going to be like. I went last year. There was homecoming at Dondero, and I picked up a couple of my high school friends, and I've done this before, and we just wandered around the school and remained invisible and listened to conversations and watched people coming back and the kids, and it was really lovely. It was great. The school and the neighborhood has remained so similar that I get a very warm feeling when I go back. The railroad tracks, the track, the baseball field, the football field, the tennis courts, the school. I used to be able to walk to school from over on Catalpa, just a couple of blocks away. And, of course, when you're little, it seems big, and when you go back at my age, it seems smaller. But the small-town character, the human-scale character is still very real, and it's so different than the vast, impersonal nature of Los Angeles that I always have very good feelings about Royal Oak.
It's a great place to live. I live in Royal Oak myself nowadays and enjoy it thoroughly. Let me introduce you to Sue Whitehall, who's in the studio with me, Tom.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, Tom.
Sue's a journalist who covers entertainment and is my co-host on tonight's show, and she may have a question or two.
Yeah, what was it like, Dondero, back then? I mean, I know that's the only high school you went to, but was it very political, or?
No. It was the 50s, and there was a lot of I guess at the time I thought apathy, but it was really an apolitical era or a pre-political era. I remember Soapy Williams was the governor, and he was the first big politician I'd ever laid eyes on. But for the most part, I don't have any recollections of a activist or political character. What the silence and the apathy bred, however, was a kind of unexplainable discontent or restlessness, and that took the form of personal relationships and endless sitting around pizza parlors discussing whether God existed and that sort of thing.
What was your favorite pizza parlor in those days? Were you
Oh, come on. I can't remember. My brain has been sapped.
Well, it was either going to be Pasquale's or Casamia or...
What was the one, the drive-in on Woodward?
Well, there was a drive-in called Dan's Big Town that served...
Or has it been obliterated? It might have been obliterated, you know. It's
There's a chain called Ramshorn now where...
this wasn't a chain.
No, but before Ramshorn, it was Dan's Big Town, and they were the drive-in that served pizza by the slice to your car.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter.
Sure. You've got me there.
How about the Totem Pole? Did you ever go down there for the big cheeseburger?
The Totem Pole, that definitely rings the bell of memory.
Well, their big cheeseburger was a delicious sandwich, and they've been gone now for years and years, but...
Oh, don't tell me that.
You know, but wait, there's...
How about White Castle? Can you still get...
Yeah, the Castle's still there.
Nickel?
But get this, some guy opened a restaurant on Woodward in Royal Oak called Dugan's, and he got the recipe for the big cheeseburger, so you can still get them. It's just at a different location.
So you can eat nostalgia.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Nostalgia with ketchup.
And it's very tasty.
No doubt.
That other sandwich, the Pocahontas?
Pocahontas special.
Oh, that's kind of obscene. A Pocahontas sandwich?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that ought to be abolished.
Were you born in Royal Oak, Tom?
No, I was born in a hospital in Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Well, me too.
Didn't have the hospital in Royal Oak at that time.
I don't know if they did.
Yeah, that Beaumont Hospital, although people tell me Beaumont was in a different location.
A little clinic at that time.
Yeah, downtown. But so you're a Michigan guy. You went to high school. Went to high school at Dondero, and then did you go to Ann Arbor for university?
Went to the University of Michigan.
Mm-hmm. And that's where you became politically active.
Right, simply because I was a person with a insatiable curiosity, I guess, about the world, and I dreamed of journalism and thought of being a foreign correspondent. But all that was about was restlessness and curiosity. And when people of my age, my generation, students in the South began trying to dismantle segregation by sitting in and going to jail, I felt that was a remarkable option that had never occurred to me, that you could actually risk your neck and get something done and advance your society as well as your own opportunities. So I became intrigued and involved. It was just at a moment when I was very open to the question of what the future held. It was also the year, of course, that John Kennedy was elected president, and he created a tremendous wind of change and gave a lot of encouragement to the idea that students should be active and not silent.
We're talking about 1960 now, right?
Yeah, by then I was in Ann Arbor. As a matter of fact, I was there the night that Kennedy announced the Peace Corps on the steps of the Union.
Well, that must have been great.
It was memorable, definitely.
And were you involved in the Winter Soldier organization?
I was long gone from Michigan by then, but I came through town once and had peripheral involvement with it.
I see. I always thought that, and I used to tell people the story, that I may have had a hand in introducing you to your wife.
That's conceivable.
When I was on WABX in Detroit, we used to do television shows called Detroit Tube Works, and on one of the programs, somebody lined up Jane Fonda, who was in Detroit to speak at some peace organization, and she came by the TV studio, and we did an interview with her, and when it was over, she questioned us about the anti-war movement and about Vietnam vets against the war, and wondered if there was any organization that she could be put in touch with to find out more about it. And we told her to contact the Winter Soldier movement.
Well, that probably was a important step for her.
I always wondered later if she had met you at that time and if it was my fault.
I don't think so.
All right.
You're absolved.
Thank you, Tom. Nonetheless, it must be from your relation with Jane that took you from Michigan to California, am I right?
No, not at all. I went to California in 1968. For many people, California is the promised land, you know, and I went to Berkeley, I went to the Bay Area, and I really fell in love with the place, never expecting to stay forever, but here I am 28, 27 years later.
And a state senator.
In Sullivan Canyon in Los Angeles, and I expect I'll stay. I don't know if we choose the lives that we live or not. Sometimes I wish I'd stayed in Michigan, but you only get one life, and I've had a pretty lucky one, and I live looking into a very beautiful canyon here. The coyotes were just screaming over some prey a minute ago, and it's amazing to live in one of the most pulsating, overcrowded urban areas on the face of the continent, and still find canyons where there's wildlife. So I'm happy. Made my peace with Los Angeles.
Great. And you said earlier that this is going to be your last term as a state senator in California?
I think so. Under term limits, you get 2 terms, so I've just been reelected to my 2nd term. And if I finish it, of course, that would be almost 18 years in the legislature, so I think I ought to wrap it up anyway.
You don't think you want to run for the House of Representatives or the Senate, to the U.S. Senate? Don't want to run for California?
I live in districts that are well represented on that level.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I could win a statewide race. I'd look, but it's a bit late in life to be thinking about moving to Washington. I'm pretty indigenous here.
Yes. Well, as I said, you and I graduated from high school in the same year, and I always tell people that when I was a freshman, when I entered high school in 52, there was no rock and roll, and when I graduated in 56, rock and roll was everything. Did you get caught up in the music?
No, my head was really stuck in the books, and I was kind of repressed and didn't do much dancing. No, I really fell in love with the newspaper, the Acorn.
Mm-hmm. Did you you wrote for the high school paper?
I was a sports editor, and I think editor-in-chief my final year. I loved working on the newspaper.
So, Tom, what about the Proposition 215? That's the one we're all talking about out here.
Oh, the marijuana? The
Yeah.
medical marijuana one? Well, that was a surprise. I voted for it, not thinking that it had that much of a chance, but we'll see now what happens. It got about 55% of the vote, and essentially says that with doctor's permission, you can use marijuana for medical purposes, but it's stated in a rather broad and flexible way, which concerns some people. We have this initiative process in California, and from time to time it allows the public to express a somewhat different view, a more nuanced view, a more send a signal to the politicians who are all locked in whatever the given mentality is. And the mentality of the hour is that the war on drugs is the top priority. We're building prisons, and it includes indiscriminate prosecution of everything from marijuana to crack cocaine. And I think the public feels this is going too far, or you ought to have a more selective approach to what you're doing, because some things are more dangerous than others, and it all costs a heck of a lot of money in the long run. That's how I explain it. It just seemed to strike a chord that enough people know that marijuana can be of some value to a person that's suffering or in pain or in a hospital, and that was it. And everybody from the Attorney General of California to Bill Clinton campaigned against it, but it didn't do them any good.
Well, that almost reminds me of here in Michigan, what we have with Kevorkian and our local prosecutor trying to go after him when the voters clearly spoke and bounced him out of office. You know, the voters in Oakland County do not care to have Kevorkian prosecuted.
I hear people who are...
Kevorkian is a Royal Oak man, I understand.
Exactly.
Exactly, sure he is.
Royal Oak, it produces a lot of controversy.
Until recently, there was a gas station at the corner of 11 Mile in Maine that was Kevorkian Brothers.
Uh-huh.
And he was a partner in it with his brother.
There you go.
And lived next to the Mr. B's restaurant, which is one you don't know about, but we do.
Yeah.
I hear people who aren't interested in smoking marijuana say that the war on drugs has failed.
I think that the war on drugs is a quagmire or a stopgap. It's very, very, very expensive in terms of human life. If you think of the thousands of people killed in various gang wars, if you think of the cost in terms of law enforcement and prison building, then on the other hand, people say, well, what can we do? And I mean, that's a good question, but certainly I would think marijuana prosecution should rank rather low on the priorities in terms of drugs and crime. I mean, we legalize alcohol and tobacco, and both are far worse and contribute to more suffering and more death and destruction. And yet, marijuana is treated like some kind of demon drug. But frankly, I don't know what to do about the larger question of drugs and crime. If we can't solve it, we're really in danger of going down the drain, or at least our urban areas, because it's hell out here in Los Angeles, and the drug war isn't working, and I can understand why people don't want to go to legalization on the other hand, but some more balanced approach with a greater emphasis on prevention and treatment is certainly called for.
Well, I know that marijuana used to be in every drugstore in America until 1938. I'm told
I didn't know that. I was born immediately after that.
Yeah, I'm told that it was available both in pre-rolled and in loose form, and that it was recommended by doctors for women who were suffering from what they called the blues during the menstrual period, and that it was also recommended and prescribed for asthmatics. Was the country degenerate as a result of this availability? I think not.
I wouldn't know.
I think not, but
my parents never told me about this.
No, of course not. They ended prohibition after 13 years because the result of prohibiting alcohol was gangs and drive-by shootings and machine gunning of public places. And so apparently they said, well, if we can't draw the line at alcohol, let's draw the line here at marijuana. And now, thanks to that, we've got gangs, drive-by shootings, automatic weapon fire in the city. I don't think it's working.
Right.
But fortunately, I'm not a legislator, so my view doesn't count.
Have you inhaled marijuana?
I have, Tom, but I don't want to say so on the radio, so please don't ask. Don't ask, don't tell.
I see.
Listen, it's been great talking with you.
To you.
Sorry that you can't be in town for the...
So am I. I'll get out there before the first of the year, but I miss Catalpa Drive and I miss Dondero, and I'm honored that they would think of me.
Wonderful.
All right.
Congratulations on your re-election. Keep up the good work.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Tom Hayden, a California state senator, speaking to us from Sullivan Canyon in Los Angeles, because he couldn't be here in person to be inducted tomorrow with all those other folks at Dondero High School. You're listening to WXYT, Detroit's talk radio station. Gee, I keep telling people this program isn't about politics, but we slipped.
Oh, hey, we had to talk about the marijuana initiative. All the jokes this week are about that. The punchline is, someone says, yeah, did you hear about Proposition 215 passing, medicinal use of marijuana? Yeah, that makes me sick.
Sue Whitehall's here in the studio with me, and we'll continue until midnight to talk to folks who've got interesting things to say. It's Detroit's talk radio station, WXYT.